into this crossover edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers and the Locked On Vegas Golden Knights podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making both the Locked On Florida Panthers and Locked On Vegas Golden Knights your first listen of the day. For everyone on the Vegas Golden Knights feed, let me introduce myself. My name is Armando Velez. You can follow me on Twitter at MondoMan12, the show account at LO_FLA Panthers. And thankful and really, really thankful to be bringing in the host of Locked On Vegas Golden Knights, Tony Cordasco. And Tony, how are you doing, man?
Doing very well. Thanks for having me, Armando. And we're real interested to find out more about this Florida Panthers team here in Vegas because we don't get to play the Panthers often. And then there's two big games coming up in South Florida. And I'll ask you in a couple of minutes about the difficulties of teams coming in there and trying to sweep both of those teams, Tampa and, of course, your Florida Panthers.
Yeah, it's been a little bit since the last time these two teams definitely have faced. The season series between the Florida Panthers and the Vegas Golden Knights. The Vegas Golden Knights lead the excuse me, not season series, all-time series. They lead it 4-1 against the Panthers, and it's been a little bit since these two teams last faced off against each other back in the 2020 season. Of course, they had the COVID year with Vegas being in the West Division, the Florida Panthers being in the Central Division. Now we're back to normal. The Vegas Golden Knights are and the Florida Panthers. These are two teams who are just in real prime position to really compete for the Stanley Cup. But first, I want to spend this first segment asking you about the Vegas Golden Knights and what's going on with them this season. Obviously, the trade for Marc-Andre Fleury was a big one to clear some cap space. Didn't really get too much. The Chicago didn't give up too much to obtain Marc-Andre Fleury. And now he's kind of rumored right now to be traded to Edmonton somewhere near the trade deadline. But I want to ask you more about Robin Lehner. Now he's getting more of a workload during his time with the Vegas Golden Knights, the most ever that he has since before when he was with the New York Islanders. So first off, what are you thinking of Panda and how he's taking on the role of the starting goaltender for Vegas right now?
It's so crazy because Pete DeBoer was just talking the other day. One of the local reporters here in Las Vegas asked DeBoer about the goaltending in the first half of the season because we reached the midway point a couple of games back. And, it's like was definitely not sold on Leonard as the day to day. He just doesn't seem durable enough. I don't know. Like he's got, some off the ice issues that, of course, are well documented. And, you just don't know about his framework and everything else. I mean, he worked out with UFC fighters over the summer, should be a lot stronger, bigger, but yet he doesn't push anyone out of the crease or anything like that. His goals against average is perhaps close to the highest he's had, in his career. Let in a lot of soft goals this year, a ton of soft goals. And as soon as Pete DeBoer was asked about goaltending, he said in the second half of the season, you know what? We're going to have to really tighten things up. The goaltending, he said it was pretty good early in the season, but then he stopped and didn't really blast the goaltending when he could have. And then he comes back and says, just need to tighten it up. Need the coaching staff to tighten it up. Everyone's got to tighten it up across the board. Lo and behold, Robin Lehner comes out, plays his best game of the season, and he gets against the Washington Capitals the first shutout of the season for himself and for the Golden Knights. And in doing so, he had to stop that 99 mile per hour Alex Ovechkin slapper, that slap shot that put a dent in his face mask in that game. So he was beaten up a little bit, and then they sat him down the next night, and then the Golden Knights lost in OT to Carolina, and then it was Laurent Brossoit in goal, and it was his first game back since December the 28th, and so he looked, a little green in there at times, but Robin Lehner, he's just had a roller coaster ride of a season. He's, you have to give him some benefit of the doubt because he's played with a lot of guys in front of him, just different pairings, at times, players have been out. That's been the story of the season. Injuries and COVID for this Vegas Golden Knights team. And I have no idea how every night they're showing up and there's unlikely heroes like every single evening. Nolan Patrick was the hero in the game, even though they fell to the Carolina Hurricanes a couple of nights ago. It's just been incredible that someone steps up. Brett Howden stepped up. Like every night, there's a new hero for this Vegas Golden Knights team. They're playing within the framework of Pete DeBoer's system, and they're doing really well, which is a shocker to me.
Yeah, and you talk about unsung heroes and all that, and it's been very much needed for the Vegas Golden Knights, who in the beginning of the season and kind of right now, one thing that Vegas has been struggling with has been health all year. Mark Stone at one point was out. Max Pacioretty at one point was out. Jack Eichel, who the Vegas Golden Knights traded for just a few months ago, still hasn't played yet. But still, the Vegas Golden Knights still find themselves at the top of the Pacific Division. And this must be a very encouraging sign for anyone who follows the Vegas Golden Knights. So I want to ask you, Tony, what kind of how exciting is this Vegas fan base for when Jack Eichel suits up? And of course, right now, Max Pacioretty is on injured reserve for the Golden Knights, so I assume he's not playing tomorrow neither, nor is Jack Eichel. But how exciting is it that that they could possibly have the best top line in the NHL?
Yeah, and the crazy thing is Chandler Stevenson, who is the frontline center, has played without the services of Stone and Pacioretty throughout the entire season, just about 80 some odd percent of it at least. And he's having an MVP type season, for this team. It's just been incredible, his contributions. Now, you look at Mark Stone, he's missed I think close to a couple of dozen games this year. Max Pacioretty, I think, has played in just 16 games. And when he was in, he was so effective. And then Alec Martinez played in just 11 games this season before he was slashed with an accidental skate in his face. And he had 50 stitches, and it looks pretty gnarly still. But you have Eichel on the road. He's on the road with the team. It's team bonding time for the Golden Knights. Max Pacioretty is here. Well, rather. He'll be in Florida. And also Alec Martinez. And we can see Martinez and or Pacioretty returning either in the Florida or the Tampa Bay game. So that could be real interesting if those guys get back. But back to Jack Eichel, the fan base, at the time, like Vegas, I don't know, like in South Florida, if you followed early in the season, but the Golden Knights started off at 1-4, and then they were just inconsistent, and then all the injuries and everything else. And it was doom and gloom for this fan base who expects a Final Four now, very spoiled here in Vegas every season. They're thinking that they're going to go to the Stanley Cup final or the Final Four at the very least in the NHL. But when they brought in Eichel, it gave this entire community, team, the players, like a huge boost. Even though he's yet to play, they're so psyched up to have him in the lineup. And he's going to be still, Pete DeBoer said recently, a month to 2 months away before he can actually play. But he's been on the ice. They took off, I think, the non-contact jersey the other day. And
That's
so
amazing.
he's getting, and he's skating well. By all observations, he's skating very well. All the video I've seen, and he says there's no effects of the neck injury. Wow, it's going to be something else once he arrives and plays for this team, because I think he's going to put this team on a different level. He'll help him out on the power play. I don't know what line they put him on. That's the question I get asked the most. It's a superstar lineup if you have Pacioretty, Stone, and then Eichel on that top line. That's like a dream lineup. But Chandler Stevenson is just, he's centering the guys, a different guy. He had William Carrier on his line the other night, and he's just like every night he's got different players that are on that line. So he's done an incredible job for VGK.
Mm-hmm. And even if Chandler Stevenson is downgraded to line number 2, that's still just a great situation for the Vegas Golden Knights. And I was looking at that trade for Chandler Stevenson. It was a 5th round pick that they gave up for him with
For a fourth
Washington.
liner. He was a fourth liner at the time.
What a steal for Vegas, and he's now the leading point getter. And former Florida Panther Jonathan Marchessault is the leading goal scorer for the Vegas Golden Knights. But it's going to be a little tough for the Vegas Golden Knights to create a little cap space for Jack Eichel. That might mean that former Florida Panther Riley Smith, who has been rumored as the guy to be sent out for Vegas to make room for him. But you know what? Vegas has made so many different ways of just fitting players under their cap, and I don't believe I believe that they'll find a way to do it again. They've
Well,
always found a way in their
well,
system.
sometimes they don't. You go back to that Colorado game last year, President's Trophy on the line, and VGK suited up just 15 players due to the cap. So I don't know what they're going to do, but they do have to clear some cap space, as we know. And Riley Smith, yeah, he's been rumored to be on the block because his contract expires at the end of the season. And then Evgeny Dodonov is another guy who's making, I think, 5 or
Another
6
Florida Panther.
million. And, there's a guy that's making a lot of money too, that they're going to have to start clearing some space and getting rid of some bodies because the only salvation has been the long-term injured reserve list for guys, like Pacioretty when he's been on there. Eichel, of course, is preserved through that, a stone. But now when they're all healthy and they're all coming back, well, it's going to be real interesting. Shea Theodore's name was mentioned earlier this season, but now he's playing really well. He's in a zone. And I don't know how you could get rid of someone like a Shea Theodore at this point.
Mhm. Yeah, and Shea Theodore has more term on his contract than Evgeny Dadonov. Evgeny Dadonov has 2 more years. So, um, as far as the term, Shea Theodore might make more sense. But the play of Shea Theodore versus Evgeny Dadonov, the play of Evgeny Dadonov might make more sense to get rid of him and trade him to create that space. But we're going to transition over to the next segment where Tony Cordasco is going to ask me questions based on the Florida Panthers. But first, we want to tell you all about BetOnline. And BetOnline would like to wish you a happy new betting year as we continue our march towards the playoffs and beyond. BetOnline remains the number one spot for all the best sports wagering action for 2022. New year and a new updated desktop and mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code Locked On to get started. From football, basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for 2022. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. And we're back here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast and the Locked On Vegas Golden Knights podcast. And we're going to flip the switch where Tony Cardasco is going to get the floor and ask me the questions based on the Florida Panthers coming into
So,
this game.
yeah, we kind of teased it at the start, but I did want to know about this tough trip in Southern Florida and why it's so difficult for teams to sweep Florida and Tampa Bay.
It's crazy because just a few years ago, the West Coast, the California teams of San Jose, Anaheim, and Los Angeles, where really that was the tough trip. But now it's transitioned all the way east, and you have the back-to-back Stanley Cup champions in the Tampa Bay Lightning, and you have a team they always had its core there with Barkov, Huberdeau, and Ekblad. But the questions always remain was the complementary pieces around them, and also the way contracts were structured around those players as well that in the past just a few years ago with their former GM in Dale Talon, that they struggled with moving players and clearing some cap space in order to bring better complementary pieces for the Panthers. And examples are the Keith Yandel's contract. But by the way, congratulations to Keith Yandel on breaking the Iron Man streak for 965 consecutive games played. And there's also Mike Matheson, a former draft pick of the Florida Panthers. They gave him a long-term deal, though it's under $5 million that he was making, but still that was a big hindrance to the Florida Panthers at the time when he was on the team. But Bill Zito, just 2 years on the job, he made it clear that well, he didn't necessarily say out loud, but the way he structures his contract is very clear. If your name is not Barkov, Huberdeau, or Ekblad, you're not getting a 7 or 8 year deal for this team. So what Bill Zito has done, he has made term as 3 or 4 years for the majority of the role players on this team, and that is something that's going to help Florida not just this year, but in years to come. As if there's some expiring contracts, they're going to be able to reload around the core. Next year is going to be a little tough. One thing that I've mentioned a lot on the show is next year is going to be a little tough because they do have the buyout of Keith Yandel. That the majority of the money is going to go in year 2 of that buyout, which is next year. It's going to be a little tough because that's Barkov's first year of his extension. However, if Bill Zito were to extend Jonathan Huberdeau, his contract wouldn't kick in until the year after. So that's one positive thing about it. And Aaron Ekblad's contract doesn't expire until 2025, so he has some term, and his contract is great value, 7.5 for a Norris caliber defenseman signed in 2016. At that time, it was a really it was one of the top contracts in the NHL. And now we're starting to see as inflation hits and how his play has developed too after that signing, that really that was such a continued to be a big bargain deal that Dale Talon made at the time when he did sign Ekblad. And of course, though I still acknowledge that the contract of Sergei Bobrovsky is not the best, with a cap hit of $10 million a year. The first 2 seasons were not the best for Sergei Bobrovsky, but the way he's been able to bounce back, and he's not Vezina Trophy winning Bobrovsky, but he's been a lot better and a top 10 goalie in this league. And really, the play of Sergei Bobrovsky has been the difference in the season for the Florida Panthers, especially with their backup Spencer Knight, still a very promising prospect, is not having the best year in year 2 of his, well, technically his rookie season, but second NHL season. But Sergei Bobrovsky has definitely picked up this team when needed.
We're doing the Locked On crossover. I'm Tony Cordasco of at Locked On VGK, along with the host of Locked On Florida Panthers, Armando Velez. Armando, I wanted to ask you, I guess, is the biggest surprise the second line for the Florida Panthers this season, the way that Jonathan Huberdeau has really stepped up his game? Of course, you have Sam Bennett on that second line, and Anthony Duclair has had a surprising season as well.
Yeah, Anthony Duclair's story is really awesome because he actually negotiated his own contract when signing with the Florida Panthers and betting on himself not having to pay those agent fees. And his speed has just been just extremely valuable for this Florida Panthers team. And Sam Bennett, what Bill Zito gave up to for Sam, a, a, a prospect in the Florida Panthers system, and a future second, which is going to be this upcoming year in 2022, and in 43 games played for the Florida Panthers, Sam Bennett has 41 points, and he struggled in Calgary and was playing mostly bottom 6 minutes. The fact that you brought Sam Bennett into a better situation is just what something that Sam Bennett needed. That was a fresh start for him. That was and surrounded by better talent as well. And that's just been very beneficial for Sam Bennett and Jonathan Huberdeau. Let's talk a little bit about Jonathan Huberdeau's season. One of the top point getters in all of the NHL. I know Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid are just ahead of him, and they have more games in hand. The Edmonton Oilers the with the most of the Canadian teams getting their games postponed, but the fact that he's averaging more than a point per game, top 5 in points as well. He's added penalty killing to his arsenal. Now he's on the second. Usually, when you first see the penalty kill for the Panthers, you're seeing Alexander Barkov and Anton Lundell as the first players on the ice for the Panthers. And Anton Lundell, I can go on and on about how his defensive game is just great. And Jonathan Huberdeau's continued to be on the PK as well. He's added that. So when we talk about Hart Trophy candidates, we're talking about players who can play both sides of the ice, a 200-foot game as well. And the fact that Jonathan Huberdeau has added that to his game more is definitely more of a case that of why Jonathan Huberdeau definitely should be in consideration for the Hart. I still think that right now Alexander Ovechkin is number one in as the favorite in the Hart Trophy conversation, but Jonathan Huberdeau has to be somewhere like at least a close second, especially if the Edmonton Oilers miss the playoffs. It definitely would help Jonathan Huberdeau's case to be the MVP in the NHL.
Are the Panthers pretty healthy coming into the game on Thursday night? I saw Gustav Forsling was on the COVID-19 list. Is he going to be returning?
We don't know yet because it's been over a week now since he was placed on the COVID list, and he was placed on the COVID list right before their game against the Calgary Flames. And the rules in Alberta were you can exit quarantine after 5 days. I discovered that after it's scary when the team had to cross borders and then you hear about that diagnosis and you have to research some of the restrictions over there that are not over here. So after that 5 day period, I was like, okay, the earliest that Gus Forsling could return to the lineup would be that game against Winnipeg. He didn't return against Winnipeg. So no word on Gus Forsling as of right now. There's still maybe a possibility. The Florida Panthers do have a 10 a.m. morning skate on Thursday morning and then we'll know if Gus Forsling is back on the ice. But the Florida Panthers did have an off day on Wednesday after returning from their West Coast trip. Their final game of that trip was in Winnipeg, and they had the day off yesterday. So no word on Gus Forsling yet. But if it's not today, I'm hoping that he does return on Saturday when the Florida Panthers do take on the San Jose Sharks.
Should we go to a break and then give our predictions for the game after this?
Yeah, let's go. Let's go to a break. So I'm Armando Velez and he's Tony Cordasco, and we will be doing predictions and talk about futures for these two teams in the next segment here on Locked On Panthers and Locked On Vegas Golden Knights. And we're back here on Locked On Panthers and Locked On Vegas Golden Knights. And Tony, we going into this game, health is on the Florida Panthers side, I must say, versus Vegas. And I haven't seen the Vegas Golden Knights' road record, but the Florida Panthers 21-3-0 at home. They've been nearly unbeatable at home. They're only three losses. I'm going to tell you their three losses. Seattle at home, 4-1, an 8-2 loss against the Ottawa Senators. One of the rare games that they laid an egg, and that was before. And for context, that was a game before the Florida Panthers had a whole bunch of players on the COVID list, where they were one of the first teams to be shut down. And then their third loss was against the LA Kings, where then at that time most of their team was on the COVID list. And me personally, I think that is a game that should have been played. The one against Ottawa, there was just that was the worst loss of the season for the Cats. But only three losses at home, a lot of comebacks, including one against Washington, two straight 3-goal comebacks. And this team is third in the NHL in comebacks, but their home dominance, it's just been a beauty for the Florida Panthers. Their power play is around 23% at home. And it's just been a beauty for this Florida Panthers team. And I think in this round of the season series between the Florida Panthers, I think they're going to take this one at home against Vegas because they're on home ice and health is on their side.
Yeah, and another thing too, it's just maybe the Golden Knights will be a little road weary. Even so, they played the back to back in Washington D.C. and they beat the Caps. The Caps looked really slow, by the way, in that game, and then I don't know how they came back. Again, it's some magic with especially the Nolan Patrick between the legs goal in that contest, and they forced the OT and they got a point. I thought that they would have just 2 points total on this road trip. They have three already, so they always really amaze us and they surprise us like each and every time that they're on the ice. And you talked about the Panthers and their home record this season. The Vegas Golden Knights are a better road team than they are at home, surprisingly. They've not played very well at home. The last home stand, because the Canadian trip was canceled, they were 3-3-2. And, fans were starting to get a little antsy here because they're accustomed to seeing them win. And they might have the worst by the end of the season. They probably will have the worst home record that they've had in this short franchise's history. But, they going into the Carolina game, they had won 7 straight on the road and they swept the big road series. Not big, but I mean, as far as travel, when they played Boston, New Jersey, the Rangers and the Islanders, they swept that series and that road swing earlier this season. And then they were home for over a month because of COVID and the shutdown and games canceled and what have you. And I think, it was good for them to get back on the road and to they are doing the team bonding thing, so to speak. And I think it's kind of good for them just to kind of build some chemistry and some camaraderie, which might have been lacking a little bit when they were at home for all those games. But in any event, yeah. So they have not lost now, really in regulation in the last 8 road games. So that's going to be a pretty good contrast in styles and everything else. And it's going to be make for a real interesting dynamic in the game. But I still think Florida prevails. I just think I don't know how VGK, if they could squeak out a point or steal a game out of the next 2, I think they're in business, heading back home, and they'll only have Buffalo before the break.
Yeah, and I'm looking at their road record right now. 12, 5, and 1 for the Vegas Golden Knights. Impressive road record, and a plus 20 goal differential for the Vegas Golden Knights on the season. Last 10 games, 4-3-3 for Vegas. And even before, I remember that Vegas was one of the few teams that whenever it came to COVID luck, before the whole league shut down, they were one of the last teams playing right before the whole league shut down. So COVID
Yeah.
has actually, from what I remember, is that COVID was that for the Vegas Golden Knights, that they were, I don't want to say lucky, because I feel that would be an injustice to saying it. But as far as COVID luck, Vegas has been very lucky that not a lot of their games have been canceled due to their players being sick. Mostly the when it comes to COVID, it mostly has been because of the attendance restrictions in Canada as well. So
Yeah,
that
it's been,
hasn't it hasn't been
on
the
the
worst
Canadian
situation.
side. Yeah, and
Mhm.
for VGK, Armando, the one thing about any COVID scare, they had some COVID cases, yes, but they didn't all happen at once, and so they were
Mhm.
fortunate in that regard. So they have had players in and out of the lineup, and then they lucked out when Alex Petrangelo was in COVID protocols, and they changed the time that you had to be in quarantine from 10 days down to 5. So he got a couple of extra games in that he normally would not have earlier in the season. But they've definitely had a little bit of luck with not having the whole team have a massive breakout all at once.
Yeah, and looking at the Vegas Golden Knights on their February schedule, looks like that they don't have too many games to make up. And just like the Florida
No,
Panthers, they only have 4. They only have 4
yeah,
games to make up.
it's
So
4 games, and then they added the San Jose game. They switched the date for that game, so it's basically 5 for the Vegas Golden Knights. And the most difficult part for them will be the back-to-back in Canada, Edmonton and Calgary. It's just a back-to-back, like a few days after the All-Star break. Hey, do you
mm,
think fans are excited about the All-Star game being here in Las Vegas?
maybe not the game itself, but
Yeah,
the
the
fact
game. I
that
don't like
it
the game anymore. I don't like the 3-on-3 format anymore. I call
yeah.
me a
But
traditionalist, but
But I think the fact that it's Vegas, the bright lights, big city feel to it, I think that's a pretty cool thing about it. The the only the only bad situation is the fact that we're still in the middle of a pandemic too. So the players can't really do as much as they want to while being in Vegas with the pandemic going on. And I feel for the players who want to go out and have fun and be rewarded for their success on the ice and just go around. But of course, there's a risk involved in that too. So it just sucks that the year that it's in Vegas is it that this pandemic is still going on and that they're only limited to what they can do.
Yeah, they're not going to be able to do a lot. They're not going to have interactions with the fans and all of those things that you expect to see for All Star weekends. But it should be good, and I really do think that Florida has the upper hand heading into the game on Thursday night.
Hmm. And it's crazy because there's very one similarity that the Vegas Golden Knights and the Florida Panthers do have from what I have written down here is that one thing that both these teams have in common is that they are really great at even strength. But one thing that is still need to be like a little bit of a work in progress is the power play. And Florida is on a little bit of a run recently since coming out of the COVID pause on the power play. Before they were kind of struggling a little bit. Um, Now Florida ranks 13th in the NHL at 20.9%. Penalty kills 15th. But the Vegas Golden Knights, they're middle of the pack in
They
power
were
play at
awful. Yeah,
20.5.
they were
Yeah.
Armando. They were awful at the start of the season, so they've come a long way. And I think it's now five power play goals in the last 5 games. For the Golden Knights. So they are making some improvement there once they get Eichel and Max Pacioretty. Oh my goodness, on the power play, it's going to be scary good. Should be really good.
Mhm. Yeah, so both I'm curious to see what these two teams are going to look like 5 on 5, especially because that's how you win in this league. Because historically, with penalties in this era of the NHL, there's less penalties called now and less power play opportunities. So you really got to be better at 5 on 5, and the fact that Vegas has these numbers on the power play while still leading the division, when they get Pacioretty and Jack Eichel back, I'm excited to see what this Vegas Golden Knights team is going to look like. And this Vegas Golden Knights team is going to look very, very different the next time the Florida Panthers and the Vegas Golden Knights face off on March 17th in Vegas, another Thursday night game. So Florida Panther fans and Vegas Golden Knights fans are going to see one team on Thursday, but it's going to be a complete makeover next time these two face.
Should be fun.
And I'm excited for it. But Tony, it was great having you on the show and doing this crossover edition of Locked On Panthers and, of course, Locked On Vegas Golden Knights. Tell my followers where they can find you on the internet and your show.
Okay, so it's at Vegas at Locked On VGK, and I am at Tony Dasco. I almost forgot my name. But thanks for having me, Armando. It's been a lot of fun and should be a really good game. Probably tight checking sort of game, especially early on in the contest. So, and if Vegas has to go and skate outside, they're not going to win the game. If Florida, I suspect, will try to lock down the middle of the ice and also the neutral ice area. I think that's what they're going to try to do, and they're going to try to pound them a little too. It should be
Mm.
fun.
I'm definitely anticipating it for it. But and for the Vegas Golden Knights listeners, you can follow me on Twitter at MondoMan12. Follow the show account at LO_FLA Panthers. And though these two teams only face twice a year, where many fans, not just Tony and I, are expecting both of these teams to just have a great 2 games against one another, but definitely two teams who are expected um, to go on long playoff runs. So great. I'm also grateful to be to cover a contending team just like you. And hey, who knows? Maybe we'll meet again way later. So looking forward to it if that's the case.
Likewise, it should be fun.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Armando.